This is going to be kind of a serious one, but let's go ahead and roll that intro. Hello, Matty Loves Movies viewers. I've gathered you all here today to talk about something kind of serious. If it seems a little dark in my house, it's because everybody else in the house is asleep right now. If I'm talking a little quieter, that's for the same reason. I just needed to talk about something kind of serious that's going on with me, and then talk about just make an announcement for the channel about the future of the channel. But let me get the kind of heavy stuff out of the way real quick. People who know me, a lot of them have noticed this. Some of them I've talked to them firsthand about this. But over the last several months, my mental health has been at, as Bo Burnham would call it, an ATL.
Which is that's an all-time low, not Atlanta.
It's funny because the last week that I announced of 5225 was supposed to be about non-horror horror movies, and one of the movies I watched was Bo Burnham's Inside, because it's a masterpiece of a stand-up special, but it's also a terrifying horror reality for some people. But yeah, so my mental health has been at an all-time low lately, and it's taken a big toll on my life, personal life, my professional life, the channel, my love of things in general. And I just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I just, I feel right now like being really honest and open about a lot of the things that I've experienced in my life and what's kind of going on with me. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. Um, well, not all the way back. Just kind of talk about my mental health history right now. And there's a reason, and I'll get to that. But uh, I've been anxious since I can remember. I don't remember a time that I haven't been a little ball of anxiety. When I was a kid, I used to pretend to be sick to get to go home from school. In fact, mom had to have a talk with the teachers had to call my mom in to have a discussion about why I was leaving school so often. And I got really good at pretending to be sick, but I wouldn't find out until years later that the reason was because it was because of anxiety. I was actually pretending to be sick because I was way too anxious about school and just really a lot of things that rolled over into who I became as an adult. Um, but it goes beyond that. I used to wake my mom up in the middle of the night a couple times a week, maybe more than a few times a week, just to make sure she was alive because I had this intense fear and I could not go to sleep. I'm like, I know that she's dead right now, and then so I'd have to go check in on her, and it's funny a little bit now, just looking back at it. And my poor long suffering mother, she was a single mom for most of my childhood, and did her best, and she was incredible, and just her raising me and my sister. Shout out to all the single moms out there because single parents. I there are single dads out there too. Single parents who are doing it alone, even if you have a co-parent, if you are the primary caregiver, that's difficult. And I hope your kids are not waking you up several times a week just to make sure you're alive, because that's the situation I put my mom in. I also had this intense fear of, and this was probably part of the worrying all the time my mom was going to be dead, was that I had this intense fear of being separated from my sister. I had this idea in my head that if anything ever happened, that they would separate the two of us and we would have to go to different people. My dad was still alive. But he, sorry if any of my family's watching this, he sucked. Um, and I did not really want to go there, but I, of course, if we could stay together, of course I would. And I back then I definitely would have more than I when I think back now think that I would have wanted to. But just the idea that if something happened to both of them, that my sister and I would be separated, and that was just an intense fear of mine that I just had like I worried all the time that that might happen. Um, this little tangent here, but if you've never seen the movie Memoir of a Snail, it's an excellent animated feature film. It was nominated for best animated feature last year, 2 years ago. I don't remember. Dates are escaping me. It was I don't know. It doesn't matter. But it's an excellent film, and in that film is that great fear of mine realized in claymation. But that was the early years of my anxiety. Uh, it did progress and and I'll get to that here in a moment. As far as the other big issue that I have a lot and that's causing me to make this is depression. That's also something that I've kind of dealt with my whole life. Of course, like anxiety, I didn't know what it was called or I didn't know what to do with it. When I was younger, the earliest I can remember ever feeling depression was when I was 7. It's really sad when I think back to it because I was 7 and I remember specifically, I remember this moment clearly, crystal clearly, that I looked down at my teddy bear. His name was Pookie. He was amazing. He's still alive. He lives with my middleest son now. But I got Pookie when I was 5, and but he's still around. But I looked down at Pookie and I told him that he was the only one that loved me. Which, oh God, isn't that heartbreaking? That's terrible. Um, but at the time, it was something that felt very true. Of course, I know that wasn't true. I had a great mom and a great sister, and they definitely loved me. I had a great family outside of that. People loved me, but as you'll probably see through what I'm about, all the stuff I'm about to tell you, I have a big problem with self worth, feeling like I'm not worth the time it takes to love me. I'm not worth uh, uh, anybody's energy or time. Um, and I have a. It's very difficult for me to recognize love that other people are giving me, and that sucks. But at the time, that was part of it. And now that I know things like my ADHD, I have rejection sensitive dysphoria. I know that that's probably a negative emotion caused that from someone else, caused me to think that no one loved me. It's I'm smiling right now just because it's I have to to keep from just being devastated by it. It was very very sad. Fast forward a little bit, I got on antidepressants for the first time when I was 14. That was for anxiety because I was having a lot of anxiety at the time for various reasons, but it was very clear that I had something wrong. There was an imbalance there. I stopped taking them for at some point when I was a teenager. I'm not sure why, because they did help, but at some point I just stopped taking them. I stopped going to that doctor, stopped getting those filled. I don't remember. I'm not even speculating at this point. I stopped taking them. I'm not sure why. There wasn't like a reason. It just fizzled out. Um, in my early 20s, uh, I was very much still having these anxiety and depression issues, but I positioned myself as kind of the go-to person for the people around me. I wanted to be someone they could rely on when they were having mental health issues, and whether that was a thing that they believed about me in reality, that they knew that I could be there. It was in my mind the truth. I was there for them and I would always be there for them. And I didn't want to appear as someone who they couldn't come to because of my issues. So I kind of hid that as best I could. I've gotten very good at masking since then. Like today, I feel like I'm an expert at masking. Back then, I don't know that I was probably wasn't as good as I am today, but that's kind of where the masking really started. Me trying to be that person for the people around me. I was fighting secret battles in my head, though. One against depression, one against anxiety, and one very very secret battle against my sexuality. I had not yet allowed myself to admit that I was queer, um, and never reached out to anybody because I was worried that if they thought I was struggling, they wouldn't want to come to me. And so my thoughts got very dark, but I kept them at bay. I was able to keep them away most of the time. It wasn't always as successful as others, but I was able to keep that. Uh, in my mid 20s, I got married. I started having kids, and suddenly I had this new reason to stick around. In in the form of these two little boys. The third one would come later. He's also a reason. Uh, and that became like the reason that I was still around, that family that I had created. Around 2016, I lost my job and was unemployed for over 6 months. This was my darkest period to that point. I got to the point where I wasn't even sure that my family was better off with me alive. It got very dark. Um, but I found ways and I pressed on. In 2019, 2 weeks before my youngest son was born, my mother passed away. Uh, the grief was real and unrelenting, and it's still with me today. It's more manageable, but it is still there. But that was just another thing, another block, another thing to add on to this, the grief on top of the depression, on top of the anxiety. Um, and it started to fester, it started to grow. And in mid 2020, during the pandemic, I had the worst panic attack of my life. It lasted for weeks, like literal weeks of having a panic attack. Ironically, for a guy who had spent so much of his life wanting out and having to find reasons to stick around and be alive, uh, I became terrified of dying. That's what this whole panic attack during this time was about. That's what made my life hell during the weeks and months that followed this huge panic attack. This led to a lot of unnecessary tests and procedures, only to discover that I was in good health and that I had nothing to worry about. But that helped on a large scale, but didn't fix the underlying problem, obviously. I was still having the depression, I was still having the anxiety. It just wasn't as bad as it was during that time. So I started seeing a doctor regularly. I got back on medication and finally came to terms with my sexuality. Um, some of you watching this, if you've never watched any of my stuff before and you know me personally, this may come as a surprise to you. I'm pansexual. Uh, most of my friends and people who watch this channel, because I'm not shy about it on this channel, know that about me. But some of you may be watching this, finding that out for the first time if you know me. Then a few years ago, my younger sister passed away from complications from leukemia. Uh, Suddenly, at that point, the only two people who I knew for a fact loved me without question were gone. Now, I know there are plenty of people who love me, and I've got a family and they love me, and I know that. But there were two people I knew without question, without condition, without anything. Two people who absolutely loved me no matter what, and they were no longer here. The bouts of depression and anxiety became more frequent. They were more manageable, but they were far more frequent. Thankfully, the medication made them easier to deal with, but not less common, unfortunately. Which brings us to the present. Over the last several months, I've been more anxious and fallen deeper into depression than ever. As I said, I'm at an all-time low right now. It's like, as I mentioned, because of the medication, it's more manageable, but it's also fucking exhausting. I haven't been able to enjoy the things I love like I used to. I usually do a double or triple feature every week at the movie theater, but in the last 2 months, I've been to the theater twice. Film has always been a source of therapy for me, but recently, it just hasn't had that effect. I don't know if it's because I've been watching like it's work due to the channel or whatever it is, but it's taken the one thing away from me that I've always been able to rely on, and that is cinema, film. So, why am I telling you this? You may be wondering. Well, first of all, an announcement. This channel is going on hiatus. Matty Loves Movies is going off the air. The videos that are there are still going to be there. I'm not shutting down the channel, but I'm not going to be putting anything out for a while. I don't know for how long. Hopefully, just my hope is just through the end of the year, through the holidays. But really, it's just as long as it takes for me to get my head right, to get in a better headspace. This means that I'm not going to be able to finish 5225, which sucks. I'm still going to watch the movies because really that challenge was about making sure I watched the movies in each theme each month, the or each week. The videos were just an extra. Like they were a thing I got to do for the channel, and it's been amazing. But I'll still be watching them, but there's not going to be any videos coming for those. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that I am not going to get to fulfill that promise of making a video for every week of 2025 for that. There will be one more video coming to the channel before it goes officially into hiatus after this one, and that is later this week. I'm going to release a supercut of all of the custom intros I made for my birthday week videos. Each movie that I covered, I made a custom little intro video for with clips from the movies and stuff. I'm gonna release supercut, just all 7 of those intros, one after the other. So please check that out when you get it. If you didn't see them when I posted them on social media, or you didn't see them in the episodes themselves, check that out because they were a lot of work. They were a lot of fun to make. The little bit of satisfaction I get from uh, creativity right now is really you can see in those. Um, but be on the lookout for that and check it out. The other reason I wanted to tell you all of that I told you was because I know there are other people out there who have been struggling the way I have. Maybe they don't have a history as deep as mine. Maybe they have a deeper history than mine. Maybe they've only recently started to feel this way. It doesn't matter. Maybe they don't feel it as intensely. Maybe it's just a little bit. Whatever it is, I want those people to know that they're not alone. As movie fans, we know that medication and therapy have been demonized for decades, probably forever. Um, I just need people who have these kind of thoughts, no matter the intensity, no matter the level, and no matter what it is that you're thinking, that you are not less of a person if you need help. You're not less of a man. You're not less of a badass. You're not less of anything. You're not less of a mother. You're not less of a father. You're not less of a friend. You're not less of a spouse. You're not less at all just because you need help. And I know some people out there are gonna be like, "Yeah, that's obvious," but it's not obvious to everybody. And I'll tell you right now, I have a lot of trouble allowing other people to be there for me. And so that's what I say to you, allow people to be there for you. You may not think that anyone cares. I often feel that way, but you are loved as I am loved. You are wanted. There are people in your life that will be there for you. If they aren't reaching out to you, reach out to them. And as I said, that's hard for me. It's not something that comes easily to me. Um, as I mentioned before, have a I feel like if people see me struggle, they won't come to me, and I always want to be a source of love and comfort for everybody, for anybody that needs it. So I would not be here today if it were not for the love and support of the people around me. Of course, I have my family at home, which I've already mentioned, but I had my mother and sister as well, and they were a constant source of love and support for me. And unfortunately, they are gone, and that's why that's so hard for me, is because they were my longest running stability. They were always there when I needed it, and it's hard when that happens, but they weren't the only ones. My uncle Mike was a mentor, a father, and a friend to me, whichever I needed at whichever time. Uh, his effort, whether he knew it or not, is part of the reason I'm still here today. I love you, Uncle Mike. Thank you. The first person that I ever remember recognizing my silent struggle that I mentioned before in my early 20s was my friend Sam, who actually took steps to make sure that I was okay and to make sure that I always knew that I was loved and cared for, and would take the time to talk with me if it looked like I was having a hard time. There was a specific day, and I've told Sam about this, that really changed the game for me. I don't know that I would be here today if Sam had not made the effort to do that. So Sam's effort that day is the reason I'm still here. And that support continues to this day. I love you, Sam. Thank you. Speaking of decades spanning support systems, I have to give a shout out to Karen and Chris, who have been making sure I know that I am loved and wanted for about 20 years. Uh, they also almost gave their son the middle name Matthew. So I love you, Karen and Chris. Thank you. When I moved away from my hometown and moved to Tulsa, I had no one here. It took a while, but I developed friendships that are among the strongest I've ever had. They have been with me through the best times and the absolute worst times. My life would be infinitely worse without them in it. So, to my threat level midnight crew, Michelle, Mark, Chris, Clay, Bryson, as well as their spouses and cats, I love you more than you can imagine. You're the reason I'm still here. Thank you. In 2016, which I had mentioned before, I was at the lowest point in my life up to that point. I discovered a YouTube channel called Screen Junkies, and it introduced me to other channels and a film community that helped me get my head above the water. My favorite member of the Screen Junkies crew, Dan Merle, uh, broke off in 2020 and started his own channel, which came with its own community of film fans. That community whittled its way down in my life into a small group of some of my very best friends. They helped me through the pandemic, through my sister's death, and basically everything that's happened since then. They've been there for me during the worst times of the last 5 years. And even though I've never met them in person, they are as close to me, mean as much to me as my best friends group here at home. So thank you, Dylan, Carly, Stacy, Corey, JD, and of course my MCU trivia flirt mance, Kelsey. You're the reason I'm still here. I love you all. If I've forgotten to mention anyone, I'm sorry. That's the problem with listing names, is that you're surely going to leave some people out. I'm sure there are plenty of people who fall into those categories that I mentioned or who have helped me along the way that just did not get mentioned. And it's not that I count you any less in my journey. It's just that when I was coming up with this list, uh, I didn't think about it. And I'm sorry if I forgot you. But thank you. You're the reason I'm still here as well. I wanted to mention as many as I could by name to show that even I, who often feel alone and hopeless, have a large, loving network of people. If you feel hopeless and alone, there's someone who cares about you, ready to be the reason that you're still here. On every video that I've ever put out for Matty Loves Movies, with the exception of maybe the first one, I don't think it was on the first one. Uh, there are in the description resources and helplines, and this one does too. If you need a reason to be here, please check the description of this video and reach out to someone. And after all that, this feels like a goodbye, but it's not. I'm just going away for a little while to work on myself, and then I'll be back. There are new shows on the horizon, which I'm excited to be excited about one day. I don't know what the channel is going to look like when I come back, but it is coming back. I just don't know when. And of course, it's not an MLM video without a call to action. So tell me, who was there for you when you were at your lowest? Tell me their names. Talk to me in the comments. Thanks.